Hello my lovelies, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking some 5-star books that I have accumulated over the years. When I was making my tier list and uploading all the books into it, I realized that I didn't have as many as I thought I did. I just picked all of the books that I had rated 5 stars on Storygraph, but I didn't start using Storygraph until recently, and I tried to track old books that I had read into it, but I might have missed some. I don't know. I also, when I was younger and I read, I didn't used to rate books. I didn't used to give books a star rating, so that's kind of been a more recent thing. So I don't have very many books on here today, but that's okay. It means I can talk about them a little bit more, and we are going to tier rank them. So let's get into that. So here is my tier list. I created 5 tiers. Let's kind of go over my tiers real quick. The first one I have is 6 out of 5 stars. Self-explanatory. These are my god tier, greatest of all time books. Below that we have Absolutely Stunning. This is a solid 5-star book. I wouldn't change anything. It's just not quite as good as the ones above it, but still obviously really, really good. Below that we have You Were a Good Time. This is kind of books that I enjoyed. I definitely think they were good books. I had a good time reading them, but they maybe just weren't the best thing ever. They weren't the best writing, they weren't the best whatever, but I still enjoyed them. Below that we have I Like You, But. This one is books that I like. I don't think they're bad, but there are some things that I would definitely change about them, and I do have my issues with them. And then our bottom tier is Might Need to Revisit. These are books that I think if I were to reread them today, I maybe would not give them 5 stars. I wouldn't like them very much. And that's not to say that they're bad. That's just to say that my taste has changed since I read them. So let's get into it. Disclaimer, a lot of the books that I have here to rank are books in a series, and I have the series lumped together because I read them a while ago and I used to not rate series individually. I used to rate the series as a whole, and now I don't remember enough about them to go back and individually rate the series. So a lot of these, if they're in a series, it's just the whole series, not just the first book. So the first one is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I read this series a while back. This is a 6-book series. It is a movie, but the movie is nothing like the books at all. The movie's really good, and I like the movie, but it is nothing like the books. If you've seen the movie and then you read the books, you're going to not know what's happening because it's very different. But this is a YA fantasy, dark fantasy book series, 6 books. I love this series. It holds a very special place in my heart. It's very nostalgic for me, and I think I'm going to put it into Absolutely Stunning. Sorry, I'm trying to click my mouse with one finger so that I can hold this microphone with the other finger, and it's difficult to say the least. But we'll put that in Absolutely Stunning. Next book is another series. It's The Night and Its Moon. This is a 4-book series, and it follows these 2 women who were raised together in an orphanage, and then they kind of have this little romantic tension going on, but then they get separated, and then they have to kind of find their way back to each other, and a lot of things happen in the series. Going back to Miss Peregrine's, I definitely think that's a series that gets better as it goes on. I loved the first book, and I loved the next books even more. I think my favorite one was book 3, but The Night and Its Moon is different. The Night and Its Moon is one where I think the first 2 books are better than the last 2 books. I think the first book or the second book was my favorite. I don't really remember, but I definitely think this one kind of went downhill as it kept going, and so for that reason, I'm going to put it in I Like You, But. Next we have my baby, The Priory of the Orange Tree. If you haven't read The Priory of the Orange Tree, I don't know what you're doing. It's very popular, and book 3, the cover was just announced for book 3, Among the Burning Flowers, and I personally am so excited. It comes out in September, and I am screaming, crying, throwing up, waiting for it to be released because I actually need it in my hands right now. But The Priory of the Orange Tree, we're going to put into 6 out of 5 stars, definitely. And then after that we have A Day of Fall and Night, which is the prequel to Priory. They're very different. That's why I have them ranked separately. They're 2 very different books. You could definitely read them independently of each other, but they're both god tier, 6 out of 5 stars. Next we have The Song of Achilles. I read The Song of Achilles a long time ago. This is one of the books that I think got me back into reading after I hadn't been reading for a while. I really love The Song of Achilles. I read it on a skiing trip, actually, I remember. And yeah, I love it. I'm going to put it in Absolutely Stunning. Sorry if there's a bunch of background noise. My sister and her friend are like running around going insane, so we're just gonna ignore them. The next book I have is another series, and that is Crier's War. This is a duology. When I first read Crier's War, I didn't even rate it 5 stars. I rated it like 4.5, 4.75, so like close to 5 stars, but not quite 5 stars. And then since I read it, which was maybe like 6 months ago, I have not stopped thinking about it since, so I changed my rating to be 5 stars. I really actually kind of want to reread it, but I'm kind of torn about whether or not I should reread it because I don't like rereading fantasy books. I don't know why, I just don't, and so I'm scared to reread it, but I really love it. I think it's a beautiful book, so I'm going to put you in absolutely stunning. Next we have Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. If you watched my January and February reading recap, you'll see that I actually just reread this book in February, and the first time I read this book was about 2 years ago, maybe a little more, so it's been a while, and I reread it, and I still did love it and gave it 5 stars, but I talked about in my recap about how, yes, I think this book is good, but I also think that the main reason I love it so much is more out of nostalgia than out of the actual quality of the book itself. So for that reason, I'm going to put it into, I'm going to put it into You Were a Good Time. The next book is another one that's part of a series, but this one is just this book specifically in the series, and that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. That is the sequel to Six of Crows, the final book in the duology. And Six of Crows, I love Six of Crows too, but I didn't rate Six of Crows 5 stars, but I rated Crooked Kingdom 5 stars. I love Crooked Kingdom. I think it's really, really good. I think the character depth with all the characters I think that's what makes the book. There's so much character in all the characters, and I love it. And so I think I'm debating over whether to put it in Absolutely Stunning. Actually, I'm going to put it in Absolutely Stunning. The next book is another one that I have a lot of emotions with, and that is Solitaire by Alice Oseman. If you know me, you know I love Alice Oseman. They're one of my favorite authors, period. I have read every single one of her books, and I will continue to read every single one of her books. I haven't read Heartstopper, the 5th one, yet in full, because I'm reading it on Webtoon, and all the parts haven't been published yet on Webtoon, but I will keep reading it, and I will read anything else that Miss Alice puts out. Solitaire, again, is a nostalgic one. I read it a long time ago. I did reread it recently. I think in December I reread it. And I did still love it, but when I was rereading it, I kind of realized that maybe it wasn't as great as I remember. It's still obviously a really good book, and it still really resonates with me, but I just kind of realized that some of the writing was a bit more juvenile, which understandable, because I'm pretty sure it was written when Alice was 19, so like understandable, but I kind of realized that like since I've read this book, I've read better books, so for that reason, I'm going to put it in I Like You, But. The next book on here is This Is How You Lose the Time, where I actually read this book immediately after reading Priory. That was such a good reading period in my life. I wish I could go back to then, because I was just reading some really good books at that time, and This Is How You Lose the Time More is another great book. I, again, actually reread this book in January. You'll see me talk about it in my January-February recap if you want more information about it. And yeah, this one's God tier. This one's going up to 6 out of 5 stars. Love that book. Next one is another author that I really, really adore, and that is Emily Austen, and the book is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. I love Miss Emily Austen. Again, I will read absolutely anything she puts out. Everyone in This Room is definitely my favorite of her books. I really do like Interesting Facts About Space, and then I really like We Could Be Rats. We Could Be Rats is almost 5 stars for me. It's just shy of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it, but Everyone in This Room is 5 stars. I love Everyone in This Room, and I'm debating over whether to put it in the 6 out of 5 stars or the Absolutely Stunning. I'm trying to see like how it compares to the other books, because I think it's definitely better than the Absolutely Stunning books, but it's not as good as the 6 out of 5. I feel like it's right in between. I'm going to put it in Absolutely Stunning. The next book is one that I'm actually kind of nervous about, and that is Shatter Me. Shatter Me I read when I was in 6th grade. It was the summer after 6th grade, so I would have just turned 12. And at the time that I read the entire series. When I read it, I absolutely adored it. I hadn't been reading. It was kind of a jump. It was my first jump into like actual like YA books, as opposed to like more like middle grade books. And because of that, I thought it was so incredible. I thought there was nothing like this ever written before, and I thought it was incredible and amazing. As I've gotten older and I've read more books, I've realized that maybe it wasn't the greatest thing ever. I still like it. I don't know, I would have to go back and reread it because I don't remember a lot of it, but I don't want to go back and reread it because one, it's a long series. It's like, what is it, like 8 books? I don't know, it's a lot. And two, I just don't feel like doing that because I've seen a lot of people on Book Talk that I really like resonate with and have similar opinions to, that have read Shadow Me for the first time like this year, say that they didn't like it and it was like fine, but it wasn't anything great. And so I don't really have any desire to reread it just to find out that I don't like it as much. So I'm gonna put it at might need to revisit, even though we're not gonna revisit, but maybe it wasn't 5 stars. Maybe that was just me being 12. Next book is another one that is a part of a series. However, it is not the whole series that I'm ranking. It's just this book, and that is As Good as Dead by Holly Black. It is the last book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. If you know, you know why I picked this book over the other 2 books. This book is insane. A lot of crazy shit happens in this book. I loved it. I really did. I definitely think that it's not like the greatest book ever, and it's definitely not like, it's the only book of that genre that's on this entire list. But I do really enjoy it, and so I'm going to put it into You Were a Good Time. Then the last book we have on here is another recent read, and that is The Starless Sea. I read this book in January. You'll see it in my recap if you want to watch that. I know I keep plugging it. I'm sorry. I love this book. I think it's going to be one of my favorite books of all time, and it's just so incredible. Again, if you want to see me talk about it more, go to my January, February recap, but that one's going up to God tier. And that's all the books that I have to rank. I feel like this is going to be a short video. Sorry about that. I thought I had more books, but apparently I do not. Hopefully when we can come revisit this, do this type of video again in a year, 2 years, there will be more books that I have rated 5 stars. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!